I'd like to call to order the Technology Subcommittee meeting on Thursday, July 6, 2023. Deputy, please call roll.
Mr. Aguirre? Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Ms. Larrabee?
Here.
Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Do you have any citizens input?
No, we do not.
All right. We're going to start with 3.01, discussion and vote to refer card access projects.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So before you, you have a number of schools that Ken and I have gone around with the vendors to do the next round of card access upgrades. We've talked about this at past subcommittee meetings and as well as the full committee. This is round 2. This would do the it would do Green, Viveris, Talbot, Tansy, Fonseca, Doran, Sylvia, Cuss. Also grouped into this is the Watson School, the Watson project. We already have card access there, however, we have an elevator cab. So we have to now put a card access system into the elevator cab so that the children are not in and out of it. So that's going to be, once the individual is in the elevator cab, the only way it's going up or down is with the swipe of the card. So that is grouped into there. And then you also will see on the chart Spencer Borden. We've already started that project, but as the vendor started to open up the ceiling and some of the lengths of the runs, and also we had to change out some of the door openers, some of the actual door hardware. So we're looking to move forward with that. And then we came to you at a prior meeting for the Morton Middle School for cameras. They've done all the internal cameras, and initially we were hoping that we were going to be able to keep the external cameras to cut down on the cost. And as the vendor started to do the work, they called Ken and I a couple of times. I actually went up on a lift with them, and the outside cameras are really, they're in a rough state right now. So that would be to change out the external cameras at Morton and make it all that same system. So this would be E&E Security. They're an MHEC state contract pricing. The total amount of that is just a little north of 1.8 million. Now, just to note, we will have RPA and Henry Lord yet to do. When Ken and I spoke about it, we held off on both because there's a major project going on right now at Henry Lord, which may change out some of the doors with the windows. So we didn't want to do something and then have to reverse engineer it to redo it, as well as at 290 Rock. They're going to be doing the windows, they're going to be doing construction there over the next couple of years, so that's something that we will add once that major lift is done. Both of those buildings with E-rate funding are going to be up for a total rewire as far as network infrastructure, so we would include in the E-rate proposal, which we only pay 15% of, the wiring for all the doors, so then they would just come in and do the hardware piece. But that is something that we probably will come to you guys back next summer to do those 2 schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, any questions?
Morton, the elevator, there was something about,
Watson.
was it, oh, it was Watson. I had it down as Morton, I'm sorry. Now, do all elevators in all schools have that access to? Like, they need their cards?
No, so Durfee currently does.
Their badges?
Morton currently does, and then the other buildings that have elevators, card access wasn't there. The problem with some of those elevators, the telephone rooms, we're not gonna be able to add card access like to a Fonseca. Cuss actually already does, so Cuss would be swapped out when we do the card access project, but a system like Fonseca, the elevator cab is not gonna allow us to put card access in. Down the line, when we ever have to replace an elevator cab, then it would get it. But buildings like that, also, the school does a good job of policing the elevators. Some of them have the key on the outside, so a student is not getting into the elevator and riding it all day. Right now at Watson, when you walk in there, if they push the button, here comes the elevator, they can get in. So we're trying to avoid having the kids on the elevators.
But eventually, maybe, we'll have that?
Yep.
And I think we could probably do halfway, so I'm thinking that maybe at a place like Fonseca, we just don't let the doors open, so we access, you know what I'm saying? So maybe you can't do the car, but you can stop the doors from opening. So in theory, you can't get in, you can't operate it.
Right. So is it a card and a code, or just their badge?
Just their badge.
No code?
No
Right.
code.
So at Durfee, we swipe in,
Just-
it opens the door. When you get into the elevator, you're not going anywhere until you swipe again. So if somebody walked by and swiped it and a kid is following that person, they jump into the car, nobody pays attention to it,
Right,
they can't go anywhere
yeah,
until they swipe again. And then when they get up to the floor, it'll open, and then the whole system goes again, stop, until the
Right.
next person.
right.
So-
Do we have, I mean, I don't know who knows, but do we have any issues with faculty losing badges or anything like that?
Yeah.
So
we can kill
it's
those,
been
yeah.
few and far between. So what happens is, they'll usually contact, we'll kill the badge, and then we'll issue a new one.
Okay,
The one thing that I forgot to mention here is, when we do this project, Ken's ID will now work at all of the schools, because they're all the same systems, minus the high school, like we've said, in Stone School. Because those two card access systems, while they're different, Durfee's is brand new, and Stone's is only a couple of years old, and it's a very good system. So instead of, in trying to save some money, we're gonna hold off on those. Now, down the line, 5 years from now, when Durfee's system needs to look at replacing, we'll go to this, and it'll be across the board.
But they have restricted access, so during school, there's a window. Somebody couldn't just go
Right.
and use their
Oh, yeah.
card and go into a building
Uh-huh.
on
Right.
Saturday at 5. You know what I mean? So
There's time
there's a
schedules.
time schedule for them when
So
they
is
can
that
use
for
it.
that time schedule for everyone or just for teachers?
No, it's for all staff. There are a handful of individuals at the central office level that would have like emergency access into a building.
Yeah.
But usually it's an hour before and an hour after school teacher schedule. And then if there's an event on a weekend, Ken's custodial group would contact myself, and then I would just open up the window and then it would close. It's all schedule based.
what about South Main Street? Is that an
South Main
option?
Street is, once we can get in there and I can look at what the doors are, that'll be part of our project with South Main Street, but I
Yeah.
haven't been able to
Through
get
them?
there yet.
We can't get in there yet until.
Yeah, is it in the future?
Yes,
Yeah,
so
early fall.
it'll be treated like every other building. We're
That's
gonna try
okay.
and get everything we have in other
Mhm.
buildings there. Eventually, the same access, the same security systems.
So
So
you'll
that
probably
everything
be
is
coming back,
uniform.
right, okay.
Exactly.
And I'll touch on that as an agenda item on 25. I want to have an update on some of that stuff as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Any other questions?
I do not.
Okay, we have a motion to refer to the school committee.
Motion to refer to the full school committee.
All in favor? Aye. Next agenda item, 3.02, discussion of vote to refer Chromebook purchases.
Okay, so I would be brief with this. We came back to the subcommittee twice. We've replaced the high school devices, and then I came back and said we wanted to do the middle school devices. During COVID, it was very difficult to get devices into children's hands, into staff members' hands. So what was happening was we would get an email, Ken or I would get an email from the state that they had 750 available, we would purchase them. We'd get an email from a vendor that they had 1,000 available, we would purchase those. What we didn't know at the time, a Chromebook has basically a life expectancy of 5 years. We were buying Chromebooks that were already, in the eyes of Google, 24 months, 36 months old. So their licensing goes, and then at that point, they're not upgradable, so they basically become a paperweight. So in reviewing the high school devices and the middle school devices, what we'd like to do is, I'd like to do one final purchase and go clear across the board, across the school district, which will allow us to be in compliance with the new Google regulations for their licensing, but also, we'll have a 7-year window where we can then look at how we want to start replacing devices in the future. So everyone will be on the same schedule, but we'll be able to start rolling devices over in the future. The one difference with this quote is I've included what's called a white glove service. My team has done in the last 4 to 6 weeks just under 78 to 8,000 devices, and I'll talk about that in another agenda item. The problem is, once we order this, the 17th meeting, and we get a contract, these are probably gonna come in the second to last week of August, and I wanna make sure they're ready to go in the children's hands. So what this does is, they do all of this at the factory, they put it all together, it comes in cased and everything ready to go, and I can deliver it to the building, and the building technician can pass them out to the children and assign them to the children. The second piece of this is what's called a Google Console license. I'd like to purchase 1,500 of these additional licenses so that we have some swing room, because we have some devices as like a Chrome base, we have some admin devices. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have some licenses available to us. We also have devices at some of the Catholic schools, and I'm gonna have to upgrade some some licensing, just so we have a window and a cushion, so once the school year starts, if I have an issue, I have the licensing available. They last 7 years, these licenses, so we'll use them in the next 7 years. I actually think that we'll probably use over half of them in the first half of the year, just coming into compliance with some of these newer devices. We've been able in the past to what's called deprovision a device, and it gives us the license back. However, because of the age of the devices, those deprovision licenses are not available to us with the new license, so we have to offset it with the purchase of some additional ones.
So you kind of took both of those
Yeah,
at once, so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Bailey, you're gonna have to ask for a vote for each one separately,
For
because he
Yeah.
kind of talked about.
Yeah, he
I merged my memo, I
So-
apologize.
I have a question. Bobby, may I?
Yeah.
So on here, you have this paper right here.
1,500, yeah.
1,500, but what is this? The
So that's-
3,500 of
That
Google?
was just a quotation for your records. When we do the requisition, we would lower it to the 1,500 licenses.
Because that's what, okay,
Correct.
so
Yep.
that's what was confusing me. Because you had 1,500 here, 35 here.
Yeah, that's
I
what
didn't-
I can't modify a quote by
Cut it in
regulation,
half, okay.
right? But what I can do is on my requisition, I can say that I want 1,500 at that price and then purchase like that, but I can't modify.
So is the 46, where's the 46? Is the 46
46,860.
an accurate number?
It is,
Okay,
yep. Yep.
but they couldn't put that on paper?
Well, they could, except that at the time of the quote, I couldn't turn around a new quote. So
Okay.
when we give the requisition, because it's the dollar amount, the new requisition that's going to Kevin upstairs
Okay.
will be the correct
Now, will
requisition.
we have that when we, at the next
Yes,
meeting?
yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's back up, okay.
All right, any other questions?
No, I do not.
So can we get a motion to refer to that?
Is it motion to
committee?
refer?
No,
Yep.
for number one, the quote one for the 46,860 for the full committee.
Motion, yeah. Motion
The
to
first
rec-
one is the purchase, the
Oh, I mean,
Chromebook
the
purchase.
The
yeah.
purchase
Yep.
of additional licenses.
Yeah, so motion to refer additional licenses, what is it, 3.03, to the full committee.
To the full committee, yes. So, motion to refer to 3.03.
Yep.
The quote one, to the full committee of the additional licenses.
Second it.
Second.
There you go.
And we touched on 3.02 as well.
Oh,
Sure. We have to
yeah,
refer
sorry,
to
we'll do
3.02.
302 now.
Yes, so that's 3.02, and 3.03 would be number two, right?
Yes.
The quote for the, quote two.
Mhm.
for
All right,
the-
so I'll do 302 then. You want to run the call for 303, Deb?
I thought Bobby did.
Oh, you
Is
did,
that
Bob?
all in favor?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So for the Chromebook license purchase, to refer the purchase to the full committee?
Okay, so motion to refer to the full committee, 3.02 Chromebook purchase.
Second. So I second that already, yes.
Yep,
But what about 3.03?
after she takes roll, right?
Yep. Mr. Aguirre? Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes. And now, motion to invoke to refer to the Chromebook license purchase, 3.03 to full committee.
Second.
Mr. Aguirre? Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
So item 3.04, discussion of what to refer 2501 South Main Street.
Okay, so 2501 South Main Street in regards to technology, just to give you had touched on some questions. Promethean boards are already here, waiting to be installed. Cameras are already in-house from our camera purchase that we did in early spring. I already forecasted needing cameras for 2501. Phones, we have plenty of new phones in stock that we're able to outfit that building with new phones. Switches, we are going to use the old Durfee switches, which were only 24 months into production, so they still have a shelf life of another 4 to 5 years. As far as devices, Chromebooks, I've already forecasted a little high on that end, but part of these Chromebook purchases that we've done, Chromebooks are all set for that. Copy machines as well, we're gonna be creative and move some copy machines around from some other locations, and also purchase a new one for the main office. So that piece is taken care of. The only piece that I don't have internally is enough access points to outfit the building wirelessly. The building is old concrete, there's a lot of concrete and brick, so it requires me to build a wireless network that's a little more robust so that the signal gets to the children in the classroom. So on the quote, you'll notice it's 35 of one type, which is a classroom style AP, and then I have 6 of the larger format APs for the larger areas. And then also as well, we're going to outfit the outside of that building with outdoor APs, because what's going to happen is it'll create a giant mesh network. So that way the signal is good in the school, and then if there's a teacher outside at recess and they needed to use one of the wireless VoIP phones or a Chromebook to, call a family member, this will cover the building. So that's the only piece internally on the technology side of the project that we didn't have in-house ready to go. So that's why I came to you folks tonight. So the total number there for licensing and the access points is $54,841.38. And this will be in time. If we place this order the end of next week after full committee, I should have them within 10 days. And then as soon as we're able to get into the building, they'll be installed in-house by a combination of Ken's low voltage group and my technicians.
Project done by when?
That's all gonna depend on the building. We'll get in there and do our work.
My guess is we'll be ready for September.
Guesstimate.
I mean, again, we're limited to what we need to have ready. We need the
Right.
basement and the first floor, so we will have the building secure and those floors operational.
Okay.
And we may hold off on the upper, as we do the upper floors. This is gonna cover the upper floors for access points, but I won't be installing those until the work is done on those floors. There's no need to then get dusty and,
Okay.
Any other questions?
I do not have another question.
All right, we get a motion to refer this to the full committee, 2501 Main Street.
Motion, you make, I can't hear you.
Oh, I said, can we get a motion?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. I
Alright.
make a motion to refer 3.04, 2501 South Main Street to the full committee.
And I'll second that.
Mr. Agia? Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Item 3.05, discussion and will to refer conversion of data technicians to data specialists.
Okay, so we, in the last 2 years, have gone from one system to another. We are going back to X2. Mr. Michael Lazik has looked at his department. He currently has a database manager. He has a state reporting specialist. He has one data specialist, and he has a data technician. What we'd like to do, what Mr. Michael Lazik would like to do is he'd like to convert the data technician position into a data specialist. Now that we're going back to X2, X2 has a little more quirks, I could say, that the data is done differently, the workflow is done differently, easier. However, it takes a little bit more manpower on the back end in order to make some of these tasks happen. For example, we're rolling over now. When we came from Power School back into X2, there were 250 new staff members that weren't in X2 that we had to create. So in order to do that, you have to have, there's a level of expertise in X2 that a data technician might not necessarily have all of the tools. So we'd like to bump it up to that data specialist area, and you can see the difference in salary. A data technician is between 30 and 35. A data specialist is more with the times as far as technology, between 45 and 55. So we had also requested an AV technician in our budget for this current year, which we are not going to fill. At last meeting, we decided to not fill that position, so we have a cost savings there. So this is kind of going to be, there will be a savings because I'm estimating that the person would come in around 45, so it's only a $10,000 increase from the positions, but the workflow and the workday looks a little bit different because they'd be responsible for much more than a standard technician.
May I, Bob?
Yeah.
Can you just give me a couple examples of the difference between the jobs?
So
Like, what-
a data technician answers the phone. Hi, I have an issue with my X2 password. They reset the password.
Okay.
Hi, I got married. I contacted HR. I have to change my last name. They don't typically get into the state reporting 60,000 errors that we get during a window. This would create a workflow so that the state reporting specialist can farm out, you're doing A through L, you're doing M through Z, we can get a workflow going. It is the goal of the state reporting specialist to not have errors moving forward. She'd like to be doing those on a weekly basis, so that way when it comes time to report, we're reporting exactly everything correctly right away and not getting, back and forth with the state. Another example, a data technician is not necessarily in Excel every day. This person would be in Excel doing mass updates like the other specialist, pulling down information, making it connect to our other software platforms. That's something that a technician just doesn't do.
Okay.
And in speaking with Mr. Michaelasic and his team now, we've built a team in that department. They all take the calls, so the phones all ring, or it's called a hunt group. So Brian may be at his desk, he gets a password call, Melissa maybe get the password call, they've split that workload. So there's no need to have somebody dedicated to that phone and tied to doing just minuscule tasks every day. We'd like to get this person to do more, more of the work that takes the most time in those windows.
Okay. So, but we're keeping the data technician, right?
No,
We're not.
we're not.
So
I'd
who's
like to
gonna do
phase it out.
those tasks that they were doing?
They would like to work as a team and do those tasks. They feel
Okay.
with new workflows and the systems that they have in place. And I can actually say I've sat in there the last few weeks with this conversion, and we've put together a pretty spectacular team. They are working very well together.
Anything else?
I don't know.
Motion to refer to the full committee?
Second?
Mr. Agia? Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Sorry.
Item 3.06, update summer project timeline.
This was just an FYI. I had that graph. It's going to be put in a Gantt, so you can see a Gantt project graph, so you can see timelines. I just wanted to give you all a brief update. Our camera installs internally have begun. They've been starting at Sylvia School, and also Talbot and 290 are in the pre-stages of camera work. We have completed 3,000 student Chromebooks. They have been delivered to the high school. They are sitting cased, ready to be passed out if they wanted to do an early pickup. We're discussing with Mr. Damaris now, but they're ready to go. Change there is, and a ninth grader comes in, they will keep their device through their 4 years of high school. The only device that will roll now is the senior, and it'll roll back to to the ninth. They'll keep their own devices. That model has become very popular because we feel, a lot of the tech directors feel, is when you give someone a nice new shiny device, they're gonna take care of it. In the past, what's happened is, I get a device, I turn it back in, the device gets cleaned, wiped down, updated, but they may not necessarily get that device back. It's however they come in line. So some of the student government kids, some of the computer science kids there, they all came to us and said, it'd be really cool if we could keep our device, because we feel like we're taking care of our devices and we're not necessarily getting one that somebody really takes care of the device. So we're gonna try that model at the high school. We have completed batch 1 of 3,000 elementary Chromebooks. They are done, they are boxed, they are ready to go. We are gonna hold off on delivery until the second week of August so that we don't have pallets in the hallways for Ken's crew to get in there and do the cleaning. We have completed, as of yesterday, 1,800 of the new staff devices. They're imaged, they have the new security software on them, they are sitting, ready to go. Over the next few weeks, we will plan and implement a pass out at each building. That'll be done by a senior member of my staff, building technician, in cooperation with the building principal. Every teacher will get a new device in every building, other than the high school at this point, because their devices are still only 14 months
I
old.
vaguely remember that. Yep.
Correct.
Is it just teachers though? It's not.
So what's gonna happen is, teachers are gonna get the new devices.
Yeah.
And then building paras and people that need devices, they're gonna get refurbished, but they're not gonna get, we're gonna take out of commission the ones that are tired.
Okay.
And then we're gonna clean up the others.
Tired.
It's a good way to put it.
Question for you, Dee, and we talked about the senior pass down, if they're going to freshmen. And I know you've already discussed this, the lifeline on those, what are you
So
talking
it's gonna be about 7 years. So what we're gonna look to do is, not next year at this time, but I would think in 18 months, we're gonna look to slowly start to replace some of the Chromebooks. And we're gonna see that it's gonna be the middle and the high school Chromebooks that get the most usage, because they're taking them home. So that's where we'll start to see, you know, in 24 months, we're gonna start to replace again. The elementary, I don't see why they don't last over 5 years with these new cases. It's very similar to the one that I'm testing on this device.
Yeah.
They are sturdy. I was with the team as late, you know, as early as yesterday, and I dropped one of them, and I was telling Maria about this. I was testing it, and it slipped off the table. It went down on the side, and I said, "Oh, great! It's going to come out of my paycheck." And the device was just fine. So the cases do work.
The reason why I ask that too is because if we're saying it has a 7-year lifespan, you're typically gonna see kids in like their junior year probably, in that rotation, right? Because if you have it to 4 years and then the
Yeah.
3 that come in, you know, you'll have.
The other thing that we're gonna look at too, as we get further, the Verizon program sunsets at the end of next school year. So now we are not tied into having a Verizon device in everyone's hand in the middle school. So we may look at an 8th grader or a 6th grader having a device and then carrying that device through and then rotating those devices back down to 6th. We're gonna start at the high school this year, see how it works. We'll have some data at the end of the school year, actually halfway through the year, to see how repairs are, to see what the longevity is, to see how the kids are treating the devices. And then we can pivot, we can make some changes, and we can roll it down into the other grades. So that way now a 6th grader carries their device until they
That a
graduate.
high school kid had for 4 years.
Correct.
right?
So there, you know, that's kind of a fluid situation. I want to see how the high school plays out with the new procedure and the policy, and then we may come back and say, hey, we want to try to extend it to 6th grade and see how it works. I just feel as a parent of 2 teenagers, when they have their own device, they take care of their device, so we want to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then the other piece that I just wanted to update on is we just, as of this afternoon at 3 o'clock, finished the 35th new register for our lunch program. They are ready to go. They will not be installed until the operations crew clean the cafeteria areas, but they will be ready for day 1. So this school year,
What program do we use for the?
it's called NutriKids. It's through Whitson's, and we have a great relationship there. They've been phenomenal. Mr. Cutting, we came up with the plan. We're gonna roll these out. And the other thing that's nice is they're a tablet device, pretty much similar to this. They're in a stand, but Mr. Cutting's vision is that the lunch lady and the lunch staff are able to take it out of the stand and walk around to tables and talk to kids and communicate with kids, and they could, you know, if a kid is getting an extra snack, they could do it right there just by carrying the device around. So it has 2 uses. We also just finished upgrading the NutriKids server, so we're ready to go. So this September is gonna be great because we have new cameras in all of the buildings. We'll have new Chromebooks at the high school, at the elementary levels. If this purchase is referred, as we did, to the full committee, we'll have new Chromebooks K-12. Staff members, classroom teachers are all gonna have new devices. We have new registers. We've done phenomenal with putting in the hands of the children and the staff new devices. So it's exciting for us in technology and as a district.
Do you guys have any data, maybe send us later, but on the damages this year? On how many kids irresponsibly damaged and didn't pay for the...
So I can get you that data. That's more at the high school level, because in the Verizon program takes the device and then they repair it right now, so there's not really any that's accidental damage there. There are a few done on purpose. But we've seen over the last 6 to 8 months with the implementation of the new digital device policy, that just go way down. So
holding them accountable is what we're
correct.
talking about.
And the buildings do a great job of that. The buildings will call and say, hey, we have this situation, Maria and I will talk, or Cam will decide, what to do. There have been some kids that have been malicious with the device that are doing community service. So there are options out there, but...
That was my next question. Is there something in lieu of paying it?
There is, but I will say that it really has...
Case by case, if a parent reaches out.
Right.
But it really
Figure
has...
something out.
It's almost flatlined. It's been excellent
That's
to see.
good. That's
and
good
with
to
these
hear.
cases, I'm hoping that it's non-existent other than, hey, I accidentally plugged it in and the charger got stuck. So we
Yeah,
have to fix
that's
it.
accidental. That's
Yeah.
not on purpose.
It's been a different situation from where we were in COVID.
Yep.
It's been much better.
It's good.
All right, anything else?
No.
3.07, item 3.07, update on that.
So I just wanted to give the committee an update. I will pass it along to the full committee for the Friday email. We have 2 buildings left in our VoIP conversion, which seems like it has taken a long time. But Watson is being cut over the second to last week of August. The only reason that that's being done that late in the game is because they're doing new ceilings, they're doing some, other work in there, and we don't want to be tripping over other trades. And at the same time, we don't want to put a brand new device where there's going to be dust and debris. So that will be cut over the second week of August. And next week on the 12th, Tansy is being cut over to the new system. So where do we go from here? Every building is now VoIP. So in October-ish, once we get through the opening of school, we're gonna do a full-on, what's called an analog phone line audit. And now we're gonna get to the point where we'll be able to see some cost savings because each building had a conglomerate of analog lines that went in because the older phone systems needed many lines to run a system. Now I can run a building with 4 to 5 analog lines and the rest are all virtual lines. So we're gonna slowly be able to go into a Tansy and say, hey, they have 17 lines, we need 4, and then we cancel the rest. So I'll come back to the tech subcommittee around the holidays once we do the audit, and then we'll work with Verizon and we'll start to cancel some of the analog lines, and then we'll see an immediate cost savings.
I'm good with this one.
Yeah. Item 3.08, update on
That's good, we're
X2.
almost done.
So, X2 is live. As of last night, we are live. So our staff members can go in, they can begin to work in the system. We still have a ways to go. There is still data that's going to be going in. The biggest piece that I wanted to share with the committee was in collaboration with Brian's team and then myself and Aaron Dunst, the network admin, we were able to take everything that we've put into PowerSchool over the last 18 months and do what's called a shadow copy. It now lives on one of our servers and we own that data. So what was gonna happen on June 30th was PowerSchool was gonna shut us off and then we weren't gonna be able to see any of that information. So as a CIO, as a superintendent, we were nervous. So we pivoted and we came together and we put our heads together and we were able to get PowerSchool to agree to give us a shadow working copy of all of our data. So now we have it on a server and we can log into it. So any of the stuff that was done that past school year, we have access to at a click of a button. So if we needed to refer to that for state reporting or for conduct workflows or any of that, that's all there. What it also does is it helps us as we start to convert the rest of the data into X2. We don't have to rely on paying PowerSchool anymore. We can export the data ourselves from our shadow copy and then upload into X2.
We don't owe them any money, right?
No, so the only thing that we're gonna continue with PowerSchool moving forward is on the HR side, School Spring and Unified Talent. And then on the guidance side, Drew Woodward uses Naviance as one of his supporting softwares. So that's they're such a big company that they buy everything out. So we'll still be working with them on those 3 pieces. But as far as student information systems, we do not.
Were we with them? We were with Naviance
Yeah,
before.
they
Yeah.
just own the.
They
They just
Yeah,
own the
I thought
company.
so.
Yep.
So
Okay.
School Spring as well and everything
Yeah,
else across the board.
exactly.
Correct.
Was before
It was
SIS.
it was before the SIS. We're gonna continue the relationship there. We're just breaking the relationship on the SIS. Some of the pieces of note for X2, over the next 2 weeks, the remaining special education piece will be imported into the
That
system.
was my next.
That one has been a little lengthy because of the changes to PowerSchool. I can say with certainty that we will be ready to go for the start of school.
You can?
Yes.
I thought you said can't.
Oh, no, it will be ready. We actually could run now.
Yeah.
The only thing that we haven't done was called rollover. Right now, X2 still thinks it's X2 from 2 years ago, just so that we can convert in, and Brian and his team will be doing the rollover around the first week of August, like we typically do every school year. And then once we hit that button, we're ready to go, we're ready for students.
So we're in a good place.
We're in a very good place. I feel, I can come to you today feeling much better about where we are now, where we were last year with the PowerSchool conversion. We're in a much better place.
Awesome.
Nightmare.
Anything else?
Live and learn.
Yep.
That's all we can do.
4101, any new business done? Any business? No new business? We get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Mr. Agia? Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.